Okay, we are live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody, on Jamie Salay's Facebook page, Twitter page, for this amazing show, Transformation Live with Jamie Saleh. Hello, Jamie Saleh.
Hi, Peter. How are you doing today?
We're doing great today. And thank you for getting me involved with this show. This is a great idea. Love the idea of transformation. The world is transforming. Everything's transforming. So you got a great guest today, and we're going to be talking about transformation and all kinds of very helpful things. So tell us a little bit about what you have going on today and who's our special guest.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited about the topic transformation, as you mentioned, that there's a lot of transformation going on in the world right now. So I want to get right into this. And my special guest today is a former NHL goaltender, an NHL goaltending coach, and an Olympic silver medalist. And he's now a broadcaster for Sportsnet 650 as a radio color analyst covering the Vancouver Canucks. He has dedicated himself to ending the stigma of mental health and becoming the National Youth Ambassador for the Center for Addictions and Mental Health. Corey!
Hey,
welcome to the show,
you got it. I'm here. All good. All good. Is this cool if I hang one and I don't put two in? Is that like amazing? It's cooler than if you go both, right? It's like in warm up when guys just have their chin strap done up and they're like one's hanging.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And your
like
hair is not going to touch it, so it's perfect.
I was able to get a haircut. Thank goodness. Well,
you look amazing, and thank you so much for being here today. It's honestly an honor to talk to you, and I know that you're a busy guy and you have a lot going on in your life right now. So I just want to let's jump right into this, Corey. Okay with that?
Let's do it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. Fire away.
Okay. So this show that I'm doing is about transformation, and I really want to ask you, how would you describe the concept of transformation, and what does that mean to you?
Oh boy, transformation for me is probably and the direction we want our lives to go in. But transformation for me is self-awareness. Self-awareness is the key to everything for me, because if you're not self-aware, it's hard to get better in certain areas. So what I've tried to do in my life is take from when I was younger and those mistakes, because I've made a lot of them. My goodness, what you see on TV or whatever is not the person you become, but learning from those lessons, and then transforming your life in a different direction, whether it be relationships, with your children, with your friends, whether it be business wise, public. Those are probably the biggest areas for me of transformation that I've had to learn in my life.
Well, that's excellent. We talk about the 4 pillars of our life, and you definitely nailed it. We've got health and relationships, career, and even time and money freedom. And there's a lot of transformation that happens for all of us, right, in that area of our life, in those areas of our lives.
Yeah.
So you and I were both Olympians and part of the same team of athletes representing Canada in 1994. Remember when?
I do. Lillehammer was deep. Yeah, go ahead.
I was 16.
I know. I look back, I'm like, oh my God, you were just a youngin'. Do you remember freezing when they lit I was freezing when they did the ski jump and the cauldron? That was like the coldest day I've ever felt in my life. But what an incredible moment. We could talk for hours about that stuff.
I know. And I haven't seen you really since then. I've followed you and watched you, but I often think about the person that I was back then and the kinds of things that I struggled through privately, while always being, putting on that happy face for the cameras and the crowd, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us about your mental state at that time in your life as an athlete when the world was watching? Like, how did you get through that time mentally?
Yeah, that's a really good question. See, I became really, I would say, sick after the Olympics. So a couple of months after is when I started to struggle with my mental health. But prior to that, I was always an anxious kid, and I was always I was small. I was a goalie, right? I'm only 5'10". I was 135, 140 pounds playing junior hockey. So, my issues back then were more masculinity stuff. Like, I didn't feel like I looked like your typical hockey player. So I had struggles with masculinity growing to that point, but I was always just good. Like, I was always just good at hockey, right? So it became my identity. And then as you go along, you get to the Olympics, and that's where I built my self-esteem from, was through hockey.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, throughout life, you have to have more than just, you're more than that. You're more than just a hockey player. You're more than just a figure skater. So leading up to the Olympics, I thought I was pretty good. Like, I was like, I'm going to play in the NHL. I'm going to make millions. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. The reality is life has a way of humbling us all at some point. And I feel like, after the Olympics, we were on a run with the Stanley Cup with the New York Rangers, when I started to struggle with obsessive compulsive disorder. And then from there, my story from there, that's not what today's show is about. But from there, I struggled for 3 years, and masculinity kind of kept me in the dark from going to get help. And those things that I got when I was a child that I struggled with, feeling less of a man than everybody else, really played a role in me not getting help and hiding for the years that I did with a mental health issue.
So it's super interesting, Corey, because your perception of yourself there is very different than the crowd. And that's, you and I both lived, we were doing or playing sports that was all about entertaining. And if the crowd only could know what we were thinking, right?
Is absolutely. I remember skating around the ice thinking, oh my God, like, if only these 20,000 people knew what I was, what I was really, they're cheering for you and they want your autograph, and you're like, and you feel your self-esteem is tied to your sport. And if they, you think that if they only knew what I was really like, when actually you're just like everybody else, you're struggling through life, learning things. And the Olympics was probably the pinnacle of for me, my hockey career. It was a great moment. Lost in the final, we with the silver medal, but what a great Olympics and what a great event. Yeah.
You guys were amazing, and it was so fun to watch. It was so incredible to be a part of that team. That was a very dynamic hockey team that year. And if everybody can remember 1994, I believe the majority of you were, or if not most of you, were amateurs. I know you played 4 games in the NHL.
Yeah, but at that point, yeah. Well, we had Paul Correa, we had some good players, but we really learned as a group, and just for yourself as 16, that must have been so intimidating back then. I can't believe that. How did you get through that?
Bayul and I were the youngest Olympic athletes. Like crazy. I was just happy to be there, Corey.
Yeah.
Just happy to be there.
Yeah.
Happy Canadian.
It was what an incredible Olympics it really was.
It was really special, wasn't it? Yeah. So, Corey, in a YouTube video on the Vancouver Canucks YouTube channel, you talked about how incredibly lonely and isolated that you felt in the dressing room with your team.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, even Trevor Linden, who was the captain at that time, said that it was a very unforgiving environment for anyone who showed mental weakness. Through your experience, what advice can you share with people about the fear and the anxiety that goes along with thinking that they're going to be harshly judged when they reach out for help to somebody?
I think we all have a little bit of that in us. Some of the strongest, toughest guys I played with tell me now that they really struggled and battled with mental health issues back then, right? I mean, they had to go fight the toughest guy across the ice every night. And I can't believe that, the anxiety and, and all the stuff that they went through. So what you don't realize is that you're not alone. Like, we all go through stuff. And Jamie, I had no idea your story until I'd watched Michael Landsberg, and thank you for sharing that. But we're all going through something. One of my biggest fears back then was that I thought that my coaches would never want someone with a mental health issue because they felt like you couldn't win with a goalie that had a mental health issue. You couldn't win it because the ultimate goal is the Stanley Cup for a hockey player. But so through history now we've had, we have this. Michael Phelps won how many gold medals? 23.
I've lost count.
suffers from depression.
Superhuman. Yes.
Brian Dawkins, NFL running back, as an executive Super Bowl champion, Hall of Famer, struggles with depression. There's all sorts of athletes and actors and performers suffer with OCD and bipolar. Robin Leonard, finishes like second or third in Vezina Trophy winning for goaltending. So my point with that is that it is so far from the truth that you can't win with somebody that is struggling, because you have 20 people on a team. The numbers are 1 in 5. And those are I think those numbers are probably not even indicative of what is really happening. But if you have 20 players on a team and the numbers are 1 in 5, you got 4 that are struggling with a mental health issue. So every Stanley Cup champion team that has 20 players, you got 4 that are struggling, and they became champions. So that's probably, for me, that's one of the biggest things that I would like to share out there is that just because you have an athlete or a person or a business with someone with a mental health issue does not equal that you aren't going to be successful. Look at yourself. Look at Oksana Bayul. You mentioned her. She had struggles for years. This is a gold medalist, right? I mean, this is there's no reason you can't win or have a successful business with someone that has mental health struggles.
Well, and it's really important to share this, Corey, also for teams. And it's not just team in sport, but team at work, team in communities everywhere, because knowing that statistic is actually really incredible. A lot of people don't want to speak out about it, right? They're just, like you said, they're shy to talk about it. That is awesome. I was a small team, and I can tell you right now, that my partner didn't really understand my struggles. And so we had to learn to work together to make our differences a strength, which was probably more work on his end, understanding where my brain was going with my anxiety.
Right. And doesn't that come to communication? So let's fast forward to my life today, and we talk about transformation.
Yeah.
From back then, when I was hiding everything and I wouldn't tell anybody about my mental health issues, my hockey career suffered. My personal relationship suffered. My partner, my wife, all that stuff. My romantic relationship suffered. So what I've learned now is that I have to be open and communicate with the person I'm with and let them know when I'm struggling or what I need from them. Whereas opposed to before, I was always just trying to hide it. So, transformation for me is really learning that, I needed to be open and transparent with what I'm struggling with, because you can really make somebody feel, when I go into a shell, I can really make somebody feel horrible about themselves, thinking it's them and it's not. So communication wise, like you said, with your partner, that's probably why you guys had success too. If he was aware of your issues and he was able to deal with it.
We got there, hey? We made it.
We did, right? We all did. And we're
not easy.
No, absolutely it's not. But yes, communication for me is imperative as I've gotten older.
So important. Okay, so in a recent webinar presentation, you said one of the biggest things for you was that you needed to have someone to listen without judgment. That you needed that safe person to talk to. So my question to you is, how did you go through that process in finding somebody? And even what advice would you give someone who is struggling to find that safe person to talk to? That's not easy.
Yeah. No, it's really not. And a lot of people they're not quite as open as I am with my struggles. It started with my mom. I was very open with my mom. She was fantastic. I had great parents. Like I have no issues in that department. So I was able to start with my mom, but my mom didn't really know, she never learned anything about mental health. So she didn't really know what to do either. And then from there, I finally had reached out to a trainer when I got actually to a crisis point though, where it was a little too late. But you're right. A safe person can be anybody, and that's what I talk about. It's listening without judgment. Because when you're struggling with mental health, the thoughts that are going through your head and the battles you're having, you could have pointed out how great my life was. Olympic medal, on a run with the New York Rangers, Stanley Cup, didn't matter. My mental health was not there. So that's where I really needed somebody that I could turn to and talk to. But also in the same sense, I need people what I tell people in the same sense, I need them to tell me. I can't see mental health, so I need someone to tell me, what they're struggling with. I can't just pick it out like a broken leg on somebody. But in being that safe person, if you know somebody that's struggling, Jamie, the way I look at it is I tell people, look, if you're struggling, you can always come talk to me. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not qualified to cure you, to help you, but I can lead you in the right direction.
Exactly.
And that person might not come to me for 2 weeks. They might not come to me for 6 months. They might not come to me for a year, but eventually they'll know that I'm a safe person to talk to and that I will listen to them. And that's all you need to let somebody know, that you're there for them. You're not going to judge them. You're a safe person to talk to.
I love that. Thank you, Corey. And I've also heard in other interviews where you have mentioned that, I love this, that all of our brains break at some point and how that's okay. Right?
Yeah. Well,
You've been through that. So how do we know when someone's brain is broken, like whatever that means for them?
Yeah.
Like, how can we all as a society, whether it's in our homes, our schools, or in our businesses, in our communities, how can we help people who feel broken?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jamie. And so we look at when we've separated the physical body and the mental body, right? Of mental health and all that. If somebody has a broken leg, I can see you have a broken leg, right? So it's like, dude, you got a broken leg. You got to get that fixed, right? But for whatever reason, our brains are the most complex thing we have. But in society, if they're not perfect, you're judged, right? But none of us have a perfectly functioning brain. We all deal with anxiety at some point, depression at some point. So, my thing with that is that, there's things you need to look for. One is if somebody's withdrawing from their circle of friends, substance abuse is another one. Like me, I was always late for meetings. I was always late for things and weird excuses, right? I was always making excuses because I was trying to hide that I was struggling, that I couldn't get out of bed. So those are things to look for in your kids. Withdrawing from your friends is a big one, right? You'll find that I would withdraw from people. I wouldn't return texts, those things. So those are things to look out for. Doesn't mean that there's a severe mental health issue, but that are good signs that somebody's struggling and they need help. And again, that's where you can go to somebody and say, hey, if you need to talk to me, I'm here. I'm a safe person. You can tell me anything. We'll figure it out. And the person might blow you off and go, nah, there's nothing wrong. But I guarantee you, if you let them know that 2 weeks, a month, whatever, they're going to come to you and you'll be able to help them. And they might never. You can't force someone to get help, but you can let people know that you're a safe person to talk to.
Oh, this is so good. I am a mom now, and I think it's so important to not ignore this subject and this topic.
Oh man, yeah.
It's true. We all do struggle. Like, whether you have parents that did or not, but I think even my kids are really speaking out right now about, how they're feeling about this, this self-isolating and social distancing thing. It's important to talk about it. And you're not making a bigger issue, right? Like, it's not about making it bigger than it is. You're just talking, communicating. That's the biggest thing here.
Yeah. And Jamie, I'll tell you a quick story here. So mental health from day one in my house with my kids was forefront because I knew what had happened with me. So I made it, we would talk about it. We'd have it as a priority. So from the time my kids grew up, I was like, hey, and it doesn't have to be, I just said, hey, if something's kind of off in your brain and you think something's not right, or you're thinking just come talk to me, come tell me. My daughter, when she was 15, came to me and she said, Dad, I'm struggling with some stuff. And I said, okay. So we got her to a therapist. And part of mental health is genetic. So she ends up getting diagnosed obsessive compulsive disorder as well. I got to the point with OCD where I almost took my life at one point. My daughter will never get to that place because I educated her and we were able to talk about it. We were able to get her help. Now, does she still struggle with it? Yes. But she won't get to that place that I got to because we know that there's help available, and that it's okay to struggle with something, that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
That's the importance of talking in families, right? Well, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I try. We all try.
No, that's
right.
Very good. And part of the way you're parenting now is coming from your transformation. So good job.
Absolutely. And I had great parents. And Jamie, I'm going to throw a stat at you here that's going to be a little bit telling, but it's not a good one. So suicides are up almost 56% since 2002, I believe. So it's imperative that we teach our youth, right? That mental health, that it's okay to come talk to somebody, that we can be open, and that we can, and I'm not trying to bring the show down. I just want to make awareness that we need it in our homes, right? Because our kids need the information and they want the information. I used to go do talks, and I was like, I got a 40-minute talk at a school. I'd be like, how am I going to keep these kids' attention for like 5 minutes? Right? Like I'm some old hockey, like they don't even know who most of them weren't even born in 94. Yeah. And Jamie, no, but they want the information. Like they want the information, and we need to give it to them.
I love that.
Yeah.
You're amazing. So I want to talk now about where you are today. You have transitioned from being this great pro hockey player to now being a motivational speaker, a goalie coach, and a broadcaster. So when anyone makes this kind of transition, there can be a lot of fear and anxiety that comes with that. And I'm telling you, Corey, I can relate to this because when I retired, I was trying to figure out what this next chapter looked like for me. And I had a ton of fear around change. Like I was hearing all kinds of things like why it wasn't convenient, and even like why it wasn't necessary. Like enjoy your life. You've already achieved greatness. Like just sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor. So my question to you is, how did you navigate the life changes of the transition while managing your OCD and anxiety?
Yeah, well, that's a whole story in itself. It was what I did out of the game is that I knew right away not to take 2 or 3 years off. I was told that once you take 1 year, it turns into 2, it can turn into 3, and you're still on the couch, and you and your spouse are looking at each other going, okay, well, now what are we going to do? So I tried to go to work right away, but it wasn't that easy because it becomes about finding another passion, right? And I'll tell you right now, anything I've done in mental health is doubles or triples the way I feel about anything, any win I ever had in hockey, any trophy I ever got, any whatever. The joy and satisfaction I get in helping somebody mental health wise over exceeds that by 1,000,000 times. So I found my passion, I found my motivation. It took me a long time. It took me it took me 10 years, right? I retired when I was 33. My story came out in the Players Tribune when I was 43, 44. So 10 years, right? 10 years to find what my truest passion. No, it's not. But yeah, those anxieties and fears are real. And the best advice I got, I had a equipment rep say to me, he said, Hershey, nobody's looking for you anymore, right? You're not playing hockey anymore. And it was great advice because he's like, you have to go out there and get it. You have to network. You have to go out there and talk to people. You have to go out there and tell people that you're available. And as a player, Jamie, I don't know what it was like in figure skating, but as a hockey player, everything was done for me. My schedule was done, when to be at the rink. I put my equipment on. The practices were already made. All I had to do was stop the puck and get better. Now it was like, what do you mean no one's going to set a schedule up for me today? What do you mean I got to call somebody at network to get a job? What do you mean I got to make I got to go and take someone for coffee to keep a relationship going so that, it doesn't seem like I'm using them when I call them 2 months from now, right? It's like, there's so much more on this side that I learned, but, networking and relationships, such a great, look at us 26 years later, right? So it's about networking and connecting. Yeah.
And you're pushing that boulder up the hill again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. I felt like resilience though. I think that one thing sport gave me was resilience. And I'm sure you went through that too as well. Resilience and that's one of the things I like about sport and our children in sport. It teaches resilience. I think it teaches those key components that you're going to get knocked down. You got to get back up. There's no other choice. There's no other option. You got to get back up.
Yeah. And then what's the lesson in all that, right? What's the gift that you got from it? All right, Corey, this is so amazing. I have one last question for you. And I know that it takes a lot of courage to speak out like you have about OCD and mental illness, especially during the time that you did. Like it was the 1990s.
Yeah.
Like we have so much more awareness today, as we all know. You are super open, transparent, and you're making an incredibly positive difference in so many people's lives. So what would you love to come from your story? Like, what's your intention, your vision for the work that you are doing?
Yeah, you know, and so to sum it up as quickly as I can, my thing is I'll be honest, I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, Jamie, because don't we all? But why wasn't I taught that stuff in high school? Why wasn't I taught that stuff in middle school? Right? Like, why was mental health such a big secret back then? Why was it, you know, there's, if the numbers are 1 in 5, why are we withholding information from our children?
Yeah.
So my biggest thing that I want to come from all of this is that have it in your homes, educate your children. You know, know the signs, know the things to look for. You know what, therapists and therapy, it's not all that scary. It's really not. I walk into a lady's office, like a doctor's office, and we have a nice conversation. I walk out of there. I still have to pay her, but you know, it's, again, it's getting the information to our youth. We have a middle-age crisis right now for males and females, more and more. But I'm hoping that if we can get to the grassroots of our children, that we can give them the information on mental health, that maybe, you know, they'll, throughout their lives, they'll go get the help. And I have a therapist like I have a doctor. I might not see one for a year, but if I need one, I'll call one up. I might not need my doctor for a year, but I'll call up, I'll go to my doctor. I think everybody should have a therapist like a doctor. And that it's okay to go and, you know, don't let your masculinity or your ego or, you know, even with females that are out there that think they need to be the strong ones, the tough ones. We all need someone to lean on every once in a while. So that's, you know, the biggest gift I can give, I hope, is to make it awareness and make it okay for our youth to go get help and become better people.
Yes, the best version of ourselves, right?
Absolutely. And again, it's we talked to, you know, it's transformation. This is stuff I wouldn't have done in my 20s, right? Now that I'm older, it's that transformation from who I was into who I am today. And again, communication, talking, it's not a bad thing, right? I've gone through, and I talked about this a little bit too. I've gone through relationships. I've had my heart broken. And I've learned that, you know, communication is the biggest gift we can give somebody, and being open and talking to them. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Corey, this has been like an incredible chat for me. Super insightful. And I really, really appreciate your willingness to share your story with everyone again. This is not the first time you've done this, but you're speaking so much on this. Honestly, I really hope that we can do this again. We can even dive a little deeper.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. Well, you and I could chat for hours, probably.
Right?
Lots of stories. Like why you guys were in a different village than us at the Olympics. I still don't get that.
Exactly. Geez.
It was incredible. Yeah.
It really was. It really was.
It was that was probably, and I don't know how you feel, one of the most magical Olympics that there was, just from start to finish. And I think people still feel that way, but it was, I feel blessed to have been a part of it. So,
you know,
I feel blessed to be a part of your show.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm super grateful that you gave me your time. Corey, you're doing incredible things. Honestly, like, I can't thank you enough. And you inspire so many people, including myself, to keep speaking out about it. I wish you all the success in your future endeavors. You're just an amazing guy, and I adore you so much. Thank you for being on here.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I also want to say to all the listeners that if this related to you and you would like more information or you want to reach out to Corey, please go to his website, coreyhirsch.com, or you can even reach out to him on his social media pages. Right, Corey?
Absolutely. I'm on Twitter, so just at Corey Hirsch. But Instagram at Corey Hirsch 72, my Facebook page, Corey Hirsch Official. We've got tons of stuff on there. And thank you for mentioning that, Jamie. And, you know, anything I can do to help you always. So all good. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
You betcha. Take care. We'll be in touch.
Thanks.
Okay.
Wow. That was
so awesome, Peter.
Wasn't it? Wow. I just sat back and enjoyed that. I just sat and watched it. It was great. What was, I mean, he just unpacked, I mean, we kept it short and sweet for people so that we could get, you know, I appreciate everyone's time and Corey's time and yourself as well. But some of the stats he threw out, you know, as an example, a little bit shocking about 56% of suicides being up. You know, 1 in 5 is.
So, you know, what's shocking to me about that is that we are speaking out about it more, and that makes that means we got a lot of work to do still, right? In this awareness department. And the biggest thing I feel that we all should take from this conversation is truly about communication and how we can go from, you know, having these ultimate fears and these internal thoughts that are racing through our heads when no one else knows about it, but it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to share it, because there's so many people out there that want to help, and the alternative is not good. And so Corey has done an incredible job with himself in transforming his life from where he was, which was in like literally mental hell. Like he was not in a great state, to a beautiful life today. So the importance of that. And that really inspired me even more. I know Corey's story, so I'm super grateful that we did that today.
Yeah, I just thought he did a great. I mean, I've just learned about his story recently as well. So, and as a fellow goalie, I kind of relate. I relate to the state of mind you have to be to let someone shoot hockey pucks at you.
Exactly.
That's a story in itself. We'll have to bring him back for that story just by itself. They'll say, well, what made you kind of grow up on someone to shoot rubber discs at 100 miles? Another story. So what were some of the ahas for you, Jamie? What'd you get from that? What were some of the things that popped out?
Obviously the stats, but also number one, communication. I just think that that's really, really important moving forward for all of us, is to keep the communication open. And again, the non-judgment side of it, it's so imperative that even though you might not understand what that person's going through, but just being able to sit back and listen. Sometimes we just need to be heard, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I love the fact that you talked to Corey about, you know, the feeling of being lost, sort of so alone in a dressing room. You're with a team. You're thick as thieves when you're a hockey team or any team, and yet he felt alone, and even his captain didn't even know how to approach it. So it was really, really courageous of you to bring that up, and I'm glad he's mentioned that in some of his commentary as well.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to do this again.
We're going to do this again. So I just want to say that I really love sharing these inspiring stories. As most of you or many of you know, that I'm super passionate about helping people and sharing these kinds of conversations. This is truly a time of transformation in many ways for all of us, and it's going to be a big part of our lives. And I just want to say that I'm really looking forward to doing this again. I absolutely love this. I want to say a big thank you to anyone and everyone who was here today. I just hope that you got as much value from this conversation as I did, because wow. And if you would like to discuss or share a comment even about this show, please do so on any of my social media pages, or you can email me at jamiesoleil.com. Just want to say thank you so much again, and I'll see you next time. Dream big.
All right, Jamie, thank you so much. Enjoy, everybody. We'll be doing this again.
Thank you.